There were 11 occasions when Oda shocked the entire world by seemingly predicting the future. Hold on, I'm not saying he actually predicts the future through One Piece. I'm referring to moments when Oda left something open at the beginning of the story and only revealed the conclusion about 500 episodes later. So watch until the end, because after watching this video, you'll realize that everything Oda does is thinking about the future. Seriously, I couldn't believe how genius Eiichiro Oda is. Usopp's lies. Let's start with Usopp, who's not just a simple liar, but a liar whose lies end up becoming reality. Back at the beginning of the East Blue arc, Usopp was trying to impress Kaya and made up a story about saving a giant whale in the North Blue. About 80 episodes later, the Straw Hats did exactly that with Laboon, the whale they found right after crossing the Red Line. And wait, this wasn't the only time one of Usopp's lies turned into truth. In Little Garden, he talked about a golden fish that pooped bigger than an island. Before that, he had also mentioned an island made of poop. In other words, Prophet Usopp is on the job. But it's not just his lies that become true. It seems like everything he does ends up happening in the future as well. When he used to play with his friends in the village, they pretended to chase a Cerberus. Over 300 chapters later, in Thriller Bark, a real Cerberus chased him, Momonosuke and Roger. One of the biggest bugs caused by Oda was the interaction between Momonosuke's time travel and the Pirate King, Roger. Before revealing that Momonosuke is a child who came from 20 years in the past, it was said that he had sailed on the Pirate King's ship when he was still a baby. Then everyone started to question it. Because think about it, Momonosuke is only 8 years old, but Roger died more than 20 years ago. So how did Momonosuke sail on Roger's ship? Man, this sparked a flood of theories on the internet. Some people said Momonosuke and the minks were lying, others thought he had a fruit that stopped his growth, and there were even those who said he was just a dwarf. To give you an idea, it took over 3 years of mystery until Oda finally revealed that Momonosuke came from 20 years in the past. That explained everything, how he saw Roger and why he's still an 8-year-old child. Similarity between Luffy and Roger. First, we need to talk about a detail that revealed a connection between Luffy and the Pirate King. It all started when Rayleigh met Luffy for the first time and made a comment that subtly foreshadowed one of the biggest twists in the story. He said that the Straw Hat suited Luffy perfectly. At that moment, everyone thought Rayleigh was referring to Shanks, highlighting the similarity between him and Luffy. However, years later, in chapter 532, when Rayleigh said goodbye to Luffy, we had a flashback of when Roger and Rayleigh first met. And there was Roger, wearing the iconic straw hat. What once seemed like a compliment related to Shanks revealed a much deeper meaning. Rayleigh was actually talking about Roger, the original owner of the hat, who, unlike Shanks, had even more in common with Luffy. Luffy, son of Dragon. In 2006, there was a special anime episode where the Straw Hats were depicted as mythical animals. And guess what? Luffy was portrayed as a dragon. This was a direct reference to Luffy's father, Monkey D. Dragon. What's interesting is that at that time, we still didn't know that Dragon was Luffy's father. It was only the following year, when Garp made the revelation, that we discovered this connection. Once again, Oda planted clues long before the big reveal. Luffy 100 times stronger. At the end of chapter 1091, Luffy faced Kizaru and made it clear that he was 100 times stronger than he was 2 years ago. This statement might seem like a simple taunt, but when we look at the story, we see an interesting connection to past events. In Sabaody, when Luffy and the others meet Shaki, she mentions that her husband, Silver's Rayleigh, is 100 times stronger than any of them. Shortly after, Rayleigh faces Kizaru and saves the Straw Hats. At that time, Luffy was still relatively weak and unable to confront an admiral. Rayleigh proved to be, in fact, 100 times stronger than him back then. Now, years later, Luffy has finally reached a level of strength that allows him to face Kizaru on equal terms. Just like Rayleigh, Luffy has become strong enough to challenge an admiral, closing yet another cycle of evolution and legacy. Nami and the Weaver card. This is one of the most incredible examples of how Oda sets up events hundreds of episodes in advance. Back in Thriller Bark, when Nami was being beaten, a pirate named Lola appeared to help her win. The two became great friends, and Lola mentioned that Nami could turn to her mother if she ever needed help. At that moment, no one, not even Nami, paid much attention to who this mysterious mother might be. But to our surprise, about 400 episodes later, we found out that Lola's mother is none other than Charlotte Linlin, the feared Big Mom, one of the emperors of the sea. Lola's full name is Charlotte Lola, revealing her direct connection to Big Mom. The Viver card that Lola gave to Nami was crucial in Totoland, as it allowed Nami to control the homies in the forest, helping the Straw Hats on their journey. Luffy and the voice of all things. In episode 5, we saw something curious. Luffy talking to a dog. Yes, he actually communicated with a dog, which seemed like just a funny, unexplained moment at the time. However, over 500 episodes later, it became clear that Luffy possesses the mysterious ability known as the Voice of All Things. This ability allows him to hear and understand beings that no one else can, such as animals, sea kings, and even the giant elephant Zunesha. This revelation showed that, from the very beginning, Oda was already dropping hints about this special power of Luffy's. Sabo was there from the beginning. In chapter 583, we met Sabo, Luffy's brother, through a flashback. At that moment, we all believed he had died in his childhood. But later, in chapter 731, we discovered that Sabo had been alive all this time. Here lies Oda's brilliance. In chapter 98, long before Sabo's flashback even happened, we can see Sabo hiding in the middle of a crowd. This brief appearance went unnoticed for years but proved that Oda had been planning Sabo's return from the very beginning. Oda truly is a master at planting clues that only make sense hundreds of chapters later. Rayleigh was already in the plans. We can't forget to talk about what I call Rayleigh's foreshadowing. In episode 19, the anime showed a flashback of Buggy and Shanks arguing when they were still kids. But notice the man who breaks up the fight. He is none other than Rayleigh, a member of the legendary crew of Goldie Roger, the Pirate King. And where's the foreshadowing? This fight took place on Roger's ship, but it wasn't until many years later that we found out Rayleigh was the Pirate King's first mate. Yes, Oda was already dropping clues from the very beginning. It took 10 years for Rayleigh's identity and importance to be revealed, proving that Oda knows exactly how to tease our curiosity. Luffy and Roger do the same thing. Now let's talk about an interesting moment when Luffy seems to have predicted the past. After defeating an opponent in a fight, Luffy was asked where he would go next. He simply pointed upwards and said he was going to the sky. Although it seemed like just another inspiring moment from Luffy, this gesture unintentionally recreates a scene that happened even before One Piece began. In a flashback of the Roger Pirate's journey, we see the Pirate King doing exactly the same thing when asked about his next destination. From early on, Oda was planting these subtle connections to show the similarities between Luffy and Roger, reinforcing the special bond between the two. Nika was there from the beginning. This next one might be the most insane foreshadowing in the entire video. In the Wano Country arc, it was revealed that Luffy actually possesses the Gomu Gomu no Mi, which gives him the power to do anything he can imagine. But Luffy only awakened this power during his fight against Kaido, leading some to think Oda invented this ability just so Luffy could defeat his enemy. In other words, they accused this new power of being bad writing. But everyone was wrong. Oda had been dropping hints about this for hundreds of chapters. One example of this is the scene of Luffy dancing back in chapter 253. This dance is exactly like the pose of the sun god Nika, the inspiration for his devil fruit powers. There was even a time when Oda himself revealed that this was his favorite image, hinting that there was something hidden there. An even more revealing example appears in chapter 855 when Luffy discovers he can stretch infinitely. We all know rubber doesn't do that in reality, so there had to be another power at play. In other words, Luffy only possesses these powers because they are limited only by his own imagination. Just like Oda, I've also prepared for the future. So while preparing this video, I thought about how to convince you to subscribe to the channel. And after thinking about it, I realized that the best way to do this, in addition to bringing unique content, is to remind you of something simple. If you like this video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the notification bell. It all takes just 4 seconds and really helps out. Anyway, thanks for your attention and see you next time.